I always thought family meant forever. That no matter how messy things got, they'd still show up when it mattered. But forever is just a word until the people who promised it disappear. And sometimes they don't die. They just leave you behind, like a forgotten coat on a hook. It happened on a Thursday morning. Thanksgiving. The one day of the year when our house used to be chaos. Pots boiling, doors slamming, my mother yelling that the turkey was still frozen. But that morning, there was nothing. Not even the sound of a chair scraping the floor. I woke up to silence, so heavy it almost had weight. At first I thought maybe I'd overslept, that everyone was still asleep. But when I stepped out into the hallway, the air felt wrong. Cold, even though the heater was humming. Still, even though the world outside was waking up. I passed my brother's room. The bed was made, sheets tucked tight, no clothes on the floor. My sister's vanity, bare, her perfumes gone, her mirror spotless. My parents' door stood open, the bed empty, the closet half emptied. It looked like they had packed up their lives in the middle of the night and left without saying goodbye. Downstairs, the kitchen shined. Too clean. No coffee pot, no half-cut vegetables, no sound of Mom's playlist humming from the speaker. Just sunlight touching the countertops and my own reflection in the steel toaster. For a second, I wondered if maybe I was still dreaming. But dreams don't hurt like that. The driveway was empty. Every car gone. Even the 7-seater I filled with gas last night. I remember staring at the empty concrete, feeling something inside me start to collapse in slow motion. I checked my phone. No texts. No missed calls. Just my lock screen photo of us from last Christmas. Smiles, snowflakes, lies. When I opened my contacts, half the names were missing. My parents. My siblings. Gone. I didn't cry. Not yet. Shock is quieter than sadness. It doesn't scream. It just sits inside your chest and waits. I remembered last night. My brother had borrowed my phone. He said he needed to check a score. He laughed when he handed it back, told me I was too serious. I didn't know he was deleting me piece by piece while I was smiling back at him. I tried calling my uncle, the one we were supposed to visit. He answered, his voice cheerful. I asked where everyone was, but the way his tone changed told me more than his words ever could. I could hear the ocean behind him. Laughter. The clink of glasses. A ukulele strumming somewhere nearby. And I knew. They were on vacation. Without me. He said something about it being a last-minute surprise trip. He said they thought I'd be busy with work. That they didn't want to bother me. That it was expensive. Expensive. That was the word that cracked me open. Because I had been the one paying the bills for years. The electricity. The mortgage. Mom's prescriptions. Dad's truck repairs. Every time they called, I sent money. Every time they cried, I showed up. And still, I was the one left standing in an empty house while they laughed under another sky. I sat at the kitchen table for hours, staring at nothing. Trying to find one reason that made sense. Maybe they forgot to tell me. Maybe there was some emergency. But the longer I sat there, the heavier the silence grew. I wasn't forgotten. I was excluded. I went upstairs to my room. The photo wall above my desk was full of us. Birthdays, weddings, graduations. I took one down, looked at our faces frozen in joy. I'd been smiling too wide. Trying too hard. The kind of smile people wear when they're begging to belong. That night, I made coffee and stayed up scrolling through old messages. I read every text where I had apologized first. Every one where I said, it's okay, even when it was. Every time I softened the blow of their mistakes, just to keep the peace. And I realized I had trained them to treat me like this. To take what I gave and call it love. Days passed. No calls. No messages. Online, I saw their pictures: tropical beaches, family dinners, champagne toasts. And every time I saw their faces, my chest tightened, but my eyes stayed dry. Pain has a strange way of hardening you. It starts as heartbreak, but if you sit with it long enough, it turns into something sharper. I started remembering things I had ignored for years. The small betrayals that didn't seem like much at the time. Mom taking my savings to pay off Sloane's college debt. Dad using my name for a loan I didn't sign. Corbin telling everyone at dinner that I was too boring to date. All those moments I laughed off, swallowed, forgave. Because I thought love meant endurance. But it only meant silence. One evening, I opened a drawer in Dad's study and found the travel receipts. Airline tickets. 5 of them. Booked weeks before Thanksgiving. All their names. Not mine. I didn't even flinch. I just folded them back up and put them where I found them. Revenge doesn't always need fire. Sometimes it just needs focus. I went back to work on Monday. My boss asked how my holiday was. I smiled and said peaceful. And in a way it was. When you finally realize that the people who hurt you will never apologize, peace stops being something you ask for. It becomes something you build. I started pulling back slowly. I stopped answering their calls when they finally came, weeks later. I ignored their excuses, their half-hearted texts, the guilt traps, because I wasn't angry anymore. Anger burns out fast. What came after was colder, calmer, cleaner. I moved my money to a new account, changed my number, sold the house that had once been our family's pride. The house they left me in, the one I'd been paying for while they played happy family on an island. When the realtor handed me the check, I felt lighter than I had in years. I rented a small apartment downtown. One window, one chair, one plant I barely remembered to water. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't wake up to someone needing me. Just my own heartbeat, steady and mine. But freedom has a price. It costs every illusion you've ever believed in. There were nights I missed them, even after everything. Nights I scrolled through old photos, looking for proof that at some point it was real. But even memories start to fade when they're not fed. I learned to stop reopening wounds just to prove I was bleeding. A year later, I got a letter. From my mother. Handwritten. The handwriting looked smaller than I remembered, shakier. She said they'd been wrong. That they hadn't realized how much I'd done. That they wanted me back. But it wasn't an apology. It was a request. For help. Dad had lost his job. Sloane's marriage had fallen apart. They needed money. And for a moment, I felt that old instinct to fix it. To save them again. Then I remembered the empty house. The deleted numbers. The sound of waves on the other end of the phone, while I stood alone in a kitchen too clean to be real. And I understood something. You can love people and still decide they don't get to come back. Forgiveness doesn't always mean access. I didn't reply to the letter. I folded it neatly and placed it in a box with all the other proof of who I used to be. Then I took the box to the edge of the pier and watched it sink. Not in anger. Not in pain. Just in release. Sometimes the best revenge isn't loud. It isn't public. It's simply moving on so quietly that they never even hear your footsteps leaving. Now, when I wake up, the silence doesn't scare me. It's mine. It's honest. It's the sound of a life rebuilt from ashes that used to belong to other people. I still think about them sometimes. Not with hatred, but with distance. They taught me everything I needed to know about love by showing me what it was. And for that, I'm strangely grateful. People ask me if I'd take them back if they changed. If they showed up at my door tomorrow, crying, apologizing. And the truth is no. Because I've learned that the kind of love that can abandon you once can do it again. I'd rather be alone with honesty than surrounded by family built on lies. So I stay here, in my quiet apartment, with my one chair and my dying plant and my peace. I drink my coffee in the mornings and watch the city wake up. Sometimes, I catch my reflection in the window and barely recognize her. Not because I've changed too much, but because I finally see myself clearly. Without the noise. Without the guilt. Without the weight of being everyone's savior. I used to think being alone meant being unloved. But now, I know it just means being unchosen by the wrong people. And there's power in that. In choosing yourself after everyone else didn't. The night they left, I thought it was an ending. But looking back, it was the beginning of me.